Hello, everybody. It's never felt better to say welcome back to the Hindsight Podcast. Scratch that. It's never felt better to say a very warm welcome back to the Hindsight Podcast. And I tell you what, if you follow the guys on social media, if you follow the guys on Instagram, Twitter, and whatnot, you might have found out the guys always, working. Some guys in radio and TV. Some filming documentaries on the movie sets, and if you're like Emeka, who's always traveling the globe, you would know that everyone has been up to one thing or thereabout. But boy, haven't we missed you! And of course, haven't I missed speaking into mic one, of course, bullying the rest of the guys here, and just making sure that we share that great energy with you, gentlemen. Good to have you here. I haven't seen you in a month, so I tell you. Funny story for those who are just joining us for the first time. You may have wondered, you just suddenly stumbled on this great podcast and all of a sudden they stopped recording. But I tell you what, for the last 2 years, we recorded, give or take, 85 episodes-ish, and we haven't missed more than a week break. So sincere apologies for that, but it's good to welcome everybody back, starting with you, Ini.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolute pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure. I miss the table, to be honest. I miss leaning on the table and some bottles of understanding, but great to be here, absolutely.
Emeka, good to see you. Look, honestly, when I asked Ini to reach out to you, I wasn't quite sure you'd be able to make it. You probably, because I'm not sure we had a private jet money. But I'm surprised you're not in Qatar. What's up with that?
Yeah, no, again, it's always nice. Great to be back. Qatar, that one was a bit too far for me right now.
Yeah.
And the hassles for hotels and everything, it's like, I just let that go. But I'm always so happy to be here with you guys talking about football and World Cup season, World Cup episode. Like, what more can you ask for, really? Yeah.
The greatest show on earth, as I've seen in many tabloids. But we had to drag Emeka out of the office, so, pardon him being the old man in there. In the sense, IBK Sports, I would like to share that great news, but it's not my place to do it. But we'll have to go to the club on Friday, right? It's good to have you back.
Yeah, good to see you, UB. And like you said, I missed the whole setup, but there's something that needs to start,
Yeah.
We can't always do the normal, conventional way. We have to do something different. And I love this set. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Thanks to my brother there, Alexis.
Well, it's great to be back for sure. And I saw something. Someone said, "Look, my destiny helper. If I locate you before, Makachuku, locate me immediately."
They cannot locate you.
If you happen to have
you must not wait for a destiny helper.
You must go and find it.
You say I will have so much money, I will have so much money in the future. Please, I need 1 million now, please. From that money I will have in the future.
It's incredible.
Can you give me 1 million now?
But I tell you what, right? Speaking of money, I saw a funny tweet. I'm sure you must have seen it as well. So this guy says a dispatch rider, right? Dispatch something to him. So the price is 3,000 naira, and no, the actual price on the app was actually 2,700. So the dispatch guy says, Baba, the price is 3K. So he said, but the app says 2,700. The dispatch rider said, no, what's it be different between 2,700 and 3K? So the guy who is paying sends him 2,680. The guy lost it. Let me say what's it be different between. So what's the problem, And it's funny because people do this thing all the time, right? Say, bros, what's it be different between 18 and 100 naira? Leave it for me now. Why are you, But it's good to have everyone back. I told him Mr. Rufai because, this kind of episode would have been nice to have Rufai here because that's the reason we don't have any bottles or anything like that. But throwing one at the boss, right? But let's start off with, what is the greatest show on earth? I imagine that everyone has been watching and keeping tabs with the World Cup as much as you have been. I've seen people in my DMs, asking questions as to why we are not recording a World Cup episode. A lot has gone into that. And if you know me, anybody who knows me knows I hate the cliche. And it's only necessary that after a bit of an hiatus, you come back with a bit of an apology, as to why we haven't managed to record. So there is that apology going out to everyone who's, missed our work, and we totally appreciate that. Now, of course, let's start off with a story about African countries who have, I don't know if you're like me, but I've, been very impressed with what I've seen so far, right? Senegal, Morocco, Ghana, Tunisia. The first time in history where on the very last day of the group stage, all 5 teams mathematically had a chance to qualify into the next round. I was just been watching the World Cup and thinking to myself that there's a popular cliche that there's a gulf in class between African teams and European teams. But, just watching this World Cup, I thought it's almost a stereotype that sort of holds us back. because I've watched the teams and I thought that we've been on the same level technically as anybody we've played against. The difference for African teams, in my opinion, is the work we do off the ball, right? Which is incredible. I saw, the Portugal-Ghana game, and I thought Kudus was the best player on the pitch. I don't know if you agree.
I agree. Against Portugal, for sure.
Yeah.
No, Kudus has been. I think that's a prime example of a young player that is doing his thing in Europe for Ajax, and now on the biggest stage, you can actually see his ability. Against Portugal, like you said, with the likes of Bruno, João Felix, Ronaldo on the pitch, he was the standout player. Yeah. And now, you can imagine the amount of calls Ajax are going to get after the tournament. But I think he's just one of the many. Like you see Ismail Assar playing for Watford in the championship, and he's standing out. He's standing out in that team. Obviously, no Mane. Yeah. So I think it's a testament to how far these players have come now. And I think there's an extra confidence as well now. You see them on the ball. It's not just their physical. We always talk about their physique and things like that. But you see the ability. You see Morocco against Belgium. You see the technique. You see the passing. So I think we've come a long way, and it's great to see.
For me, I've always thought that there's maybe it's an unwritten mental block. I've always thought that there's a bit of an inferiority complex with the African teams going up against European teams. And the sense of, we've got to try to play like them. We've got to try to play the football they play. We all play in Europe, so we can play them a bit of that tiki-taka and do that. I always say that as an African team, you do that with a European team, they'll beat you all the time. You've got to learn to do what maybe they are not so great at, and that's outworking them. You've got the physicality, you've got the strength, and you can last longer in games. You've got the stamina to stay in games. But we don't, you mentioned doing something off the ball. If you watch what Morocco did against Croatia and what they did against Belgium, they outworked both those teams. And when you've got a player like Sofiane Amrabat in the middle of the pack, who, I remember a few days ago, his agent got a call from Fiorentina talking about an extension because obviously clubs are going to come line up for him. Right. What the tournament is hard. What Morocco have done in this tournament is, and without a doubt, the quality in terms of you can really play football has never been in doubt because we see them in Europe doing it week in, week out. Yeah. But when you come together as a collective, what you need to do is compose yourself, work hard for each other, play as a unit, and just make sure you're giving very little away. Morocco haven't conceded a goal in the tournament. They played Belgium and they played Croatia. That is unbelievable.
I find that sometimes, there's almost you wanted to go say something?
No, just a bit of a counterpoint. Like, don't you feel? I feel like during these tournaments in the past, African countries have brought that intensity, brought that physicality. But like now, I sense a confidence in them where they feel they can go toe to toe.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to say it's almost a narrative in both, in my opinion, and we haven't helped as well sometimes, local media and international media in driving that narrative that African teams are somewhat inferior to the European teams technically and mentally. And I've always found that football is a simple game. It's complicated by people who want to do a bit too much. And like Emeka mentioned, what I've seen in the past is we've always relied more on what we can do physically. We're bigger and stronger and sometimes
individually.
And individually.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is there's almost a mentality shift. And I always said that football for me is 25% what you do with your feet. The rest is actually here. And maybe now going forward there's a deliberate shift as to when you play, you're not inferior to these teams. It's about the tactical knowledge to be disciplined off the ball. But in terms of what you actually do on the ball, it's passing, it's scoring goals. I mean, for example, the Ghana game, right? Yeah. Ghana, was it Ghana? No, Ghana.
South Korea.
No, Ghana, South Korea. Ghana put together, and I've not seen this anywhere, or I've seen it just maybe one or two places. Ghana put together 31 passes. Yeah. To score that goal. Second goal. And that's not mentioned. I mean, imagine if Spain do that, right? So that tells you clearly that, in my opinion, I feel there is a deliberateness to keep African teams in a mindset that they're not as good as their European or South American counterparts.
For me, I think what has been working for African teams, especially Ghana, Senegal, I think they have more like someone who understands the African setup. And I've always said it. I said the coach that will actually win Africa's first World Cup will be from Africa. He will be a
You
native.
the reason winning World
No.
Cup.
I tell you what, he makes it.
No man, I'm kidding.
If it should ever happen, you know,
Yeah.
I've always said that, you know, there's this way we play. Like Ini said, you want to play against. That's why North Africans always find it difficult at the World Cup, because their style of play is more like the European style of play. You pass the ball around. But what the West Africans add to their game is the physicality, the intensity. So now you cannot match it technically, but there's what we call physical ability that we've got.
But I actually think that haven't you been hearing anything I've been saying?
At this tournament,
Yeah.
what we've done actually, which is a standout, is the fact that technically we've shown the Europeans that we're as good as you.
We can match them.
We can actually do this thing as well as you can do.
Yeah.
Because usually, I've seen a lot of African teams. I've seen Ghana, I've seen Morocco play out from the back so calmly, so composed.
I tell you what, I was watching the Senegal game. It was a Senegal, what the game they qualified? Ecuador, right? And as late as the 80th minute, Senegal had already scored. They were leading 2-1 at the time. And I was screaming my lungs out, you know, why do you have two people at the back? It was just Koulibaly and his counterpart.
Yeah.
And he had 6 players in Ecuador's half. And what it tells me is that, you know, mentally something is shifting. And the games we've won, you know, and when I say we, African teams we've won, are not games we've won where we're holding on to dear life.
Yeah.
It's been games we've won because we deserve to win those games. The game Morocco won, they deserve to win.
Yeah.
The game Ghana won, they deserve to win. Matter of fact, Cameroon should have won the game if not for some, you know.
Exactly what I want to say. The game between Ghana and Portugal, you know, I was saying that if it was a team that maybe it was the first game of the competition, so I want to give them that doubt. But the fact is that Ghana could have taken something from that game, because when it was 3-1, you know, we thought it was all over, and they got the second goal. They were always coming at Portugal, and you know, normally the usual African setup, you'll be like 3-1. I think let's just do damage control. Let's think about the next game. We've lost this already, but Ghana kept going on, and when they employed our Otorado guy, the coach of Ghana, you know.
By the way, you look like Otorado, just the lighter version of Otorado. I'm serious.
A lot of Ghanaians, you know, I have a lot of friends on Twitter who are Ghanaians, and they always come at the guy, his technical ability, you know, blast him and all. And I said, allow this guy to do his work. To be honest, I didn't expect that kind of performance against Portugal. And if they should ever go out of the group, I think Ghana will go far. You know, with the setup they have.
Right.
Ghana, Senegal, and Morocco.
Are you saying that because
those
they actually say that?
No. Ghana, Senegal, and Morocco. I think they should be able to go as far as the quarterfinals.
Right.
Maybe this time around we'll have a team, an African team in the semi-finals.
I tell you what, just to wrap it up on this issue of quality. And it's funny because a friend of mine, you know, David Hondain, you know, tweeted something, and it was the striking point between, for me, you know, when I was looking at the performance of the African teams, you know, and I actually made note to put it down. So look at it, for example, the Senegal template, right? But before we speak about Senegal, the goal Abubakar scores, right? Goal of the tournament.
My country mile.
You know, I wish Rufai were here,
And
right?
it's sad that they didn't let him celebrate.
Look, when I saw him, you know, at the Nations Cup, which is the first time I really got to see him really well. I said, this guy technically is as good as anybody I've seen. You know, but unfortunately, you know, we are African. Of course, you know, you can tell that he's a bit more advanced in his age, but technically, how many times do you have African players chip the ball?
And he was it.
That was very doing.
And he wasn't the kind of chip.
That was a dead ball. That was a dead ball lift. That stuff is very difficult. Very difficult.
Was it Kylian Mbappe or Radamel Falcao? Monaco, Manchester City, Champions League quarterfinal.
Yeah,
was Falcao.
Close range.
To do that, it is easy when a goalkeeper is going down or, you know, makes himself big. It's easy to think it.
And don't forget, the guy was coming behind him. He saw that, he chopped him. And then
the goalkeeper comes down, stands tall, and you.
Did you see the height of the ball?
Fantastic.
You know, when you chip normally, the ball is like projectile. He literally chipped the ball up, and the ball started coming down. It's incredible.
That's not a fluke. That's not a fluke. That's a guy who is very intentional. The only way to beat this goalkeeper is to do this.
But another school of thought. Some people were saying that, you know, he knew it was offside, so he just let him just play with the ball.
If you do it easy, if you easy do it.
Exactly.
No, that is.
How many people are being offside?
Because if the ball,
the person that said that
if the ball,
They hate her.
I'll give you an example. The Argentina game, the Argentina Saudi Arabia game, Argentina had more offsides than they've ever had in a World Cup game. I think it was 7 offsides, right? Why Messi no do it? It's what it is. But just to go back to IBK's point, right? And it's a point it's almost as if you're in sync with myself, and it's about this. It's the first time also in World Cup history where all 5 African teams are coached by locals.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe in hindsight, Nigeria shouldn't have gone to the World Cup because we would have spoiled that record. For sure, right? And though we've lost some money, from Nigeria not qualifying, but I was just thinking about it that, the tactical knowledge, on African football is, as you know very well, is more what we do on the streets with the ball. So 5-a-side, monkey post, that's how we play. South Africa, the Shibobos, that's what we love how to play. But I find that people speak about tactical knowledge all the time, and why African teams are deficient in that regard, I think is the coaching ability, but more than that, the language barrier. So every time you have an African football player go to Europe to try and start a career, you say, oh, there's a language barrier there, oh, he needs to learn the language, that's why he's not fitting in. And it struck me that all the European managers we've brought to Africa clearly have the same problem, conveying their message, their mood, their exuberance, their enthusiasm to, and we talked about on the show a lot about curating the temperature of the dressing room, getting the players to be on the same wavelength with you. I've always felt like no matter how talented a football manager is, his greatest strength is translating what's in his head to the players. And what is the greater barrier than not be able to speak in the same language? Which goes back to the
I think that was the problem this guy had.
Have you seen the video?
Javi Renard. Yeah.
So I'm watching this video, I'm like, look at the way the coach is talking. Look at the way the interpreter is talking.
Yeah.
The players got the message. But I think it goes deeper if they hear what the manager is saying.
The same thing happened to Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds. And when people analyze the fact that this guy is someone who could have done better at Leeds, the fact is, Yubi is very right. You cannot be talking. You cannot be talking to me through translator. You won't tell me say I be mad. Now translator you go first say they mad. Translator will come tell you say you they mad. So the madness no dey proportional to me. So before the thing reach me, you don't come already.
I mean you know this as well. I'm an Oron man, right? I'm from Akwa Ibom, right? There are things that you want to say, right, in your native tongue.
Yeah.
English doesn't quite, English doesn't quite do it well, right?
Course.
So I imagine that we have 5 African teams at the World Cup. We have 5 African coaches at the World Cup. You have Otoado, who's Ghanaian. You have Alosise, who is Senegalese. You have Ragui, who's Moroccan. Can you imagine the amount of energy he's able to pass to his players?
Yeah.
And I've always said, and this just made me realize that all the people who have always clamored for a local coach have been right. And that's not off the back of one tournament, but I'll tell you why we should stick with it. Alosise has been with the team for how long? Maybe 6 years?
Yeah.
Or something like that,
He
right?
was the coach at the last World Cup.
Coach of the last World Cup, right?
Yeah.
He's taking them there now. He's won the Nations Cup. Now he's taking them out of the group stage into the next round.
In 20 years.
Right? No matter what happens, look at Louis van Gaal and Netherlands, for example. The Netherlands, just few years ago, were in turmoil.
Yeah, they were
right?
struggling.
But they don't know what to do. Go and bring back Louis van Gaal. So, if the coach doesn't work well this year, for example, if Otoado runs into a brick wall and he gets fired, the resource and all the know-how that he has learned from managing Ghana at the World Cup stays in the Ghanaian talent pool.
Definitely.
He doesn't take it away to another European country, right? So if he gets fired, that's fine. People get fired all the time. Louis van Gaal, left the Netherlands job. But imagine in the future, all that resource, all that exposure staying inside Africa. So imagine let's say, for example, you fire Otoado, you bring another person. He learns, he's a Ghanaian or he's an African, but he stays inside Africa. You you aggregate the chances of Africa winning a World Cup with an African coach in the future because you haven't lost anything to your ecosystem is still intact. So You made a great point as far as, and that's me returning the favor, right? About an African coach actually coaching the national teams here.
Are we going to get as far as the semi-finals?
An African team?
Yeah.
Is that? I think if Senegal get past England,
I think Senegal will
I
get
think
past
that's
England.
an upset alert. If I had if it would be.
I think Senegal will get
against-
past England.
I don't
when
think.
when I came from home, that's what I had on my mind.
is
Senegal
there
will
any
beat
other
them.
way you come from before normally?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think it'll be a close game.
Just say it now. Let's
If there's any
put
upset
your.
to be- if there's any upset, it will be Senegal. But
Senegal will beat
I think
England.
I think it'll be tough.
Before we go, it will be tough.
I can't see it.
I
but
think
it's
I think it goes to penalties and Senegal winning. I think it goes to penalties and Senegal winning. I don't think England can beat Senegal over 90 minutes. Player for player.
It's funny. Senegal have
I
had
think the
5 different scorers at the World Cup.
Yeah,
Five different scorers.
the last time Senegal went past the group stages, they went as far as the quarterfinal. That's 2002 World Cup.
It was their first World Cup as
And
well.
don't forget, this guy was the captain of that particular team, so
He's-
he understands
You know where
what.
I'm going now?
My brother.
Guess what? 20 years ago, he was captain of the Senegalese national
Would
team.
you put your money down then?
I'll put my money. Senegal to go through.
Yeah.
I'll put my money.
Your actual money, not
Not
Actual
the.
money.
Not the.
Actual money.
Actual money.
Senegal to go through. I'm so
Are they going to get as
convinced.
far as the semi-final?
I think Senegal. I'm not sure.
But the tree
Senegal to
doesn't.
go
The tree
through.
doesn't favor them. I think after England,
It'll be
I think
Spain,
they,
Argentina.
I think they are going to
I mean
face.
France, Argentina.
You see this World
Yeah,
Cup.
that's
You see this World Cup. This World Cup is actually like the Premier League. Anybody can beat anybody.
No,
Anybody
no, no.
can-
I actually,
no, no,
actually
anybody
think
can
when it
actually
get- I
beat
actually think when it
anybody.
gets to the knockout
Because
stages.
when it gets to the
Yeah.
knockout stage, you know, group stage is different. You know, when you play group stage match, you know, you play
You know
with a
there's-
different
there's-
mindset.
yes.
When you play knockout, it's gung ho. England come against Senegal, and this is why I think England would get knocked out. England are, you know, they're allowing the pressure get to them. You know, someone, I can't remember who said. One journalist said that the England are so used to talking so well of themselves that they don't recognize the opponents, and they go into tournaments with the belief that, oh, we've got Saka, we've got Kane, we've got Grealish, we've got all these players, without an actual evidence that you are actually as good as, say, a Spanish national team.
I think it was Gary Neville who said that Phil Foden walks into any national team at the
National
World Cup.
team, imagine. Like, how does Phil Foden?
How?
How does Phil Foden walk into
Brazil.
this? No, leave Brazil.
Brazil is far.
How does Phil? Do you
I
think
think
Phil
he goes to
Foden walks
Portugal.
into the Spanish national team?
Portugal. Who does he? Who does he? Who does he?
Do you think he walks into the
Who
Portugal?
does he? Who does he bench at
national team?
Portugal? No, it looks like Emeka. It looks like Emeka.
I
He
think-
has spent too much time in the
He walks
UK.
into the Portuguese national team.
I think he does.
No, I think he walks.
Portuguese
What's the
national
Portuguese national
team.
team?
He walks
Yao
into
Felix, I mean,
Portuguese
okay,
national
Yao Felix.
He walks into. He walks. No.
Yao
It's
Felix
good-
is-
it's- I think
Well,
he
Yao
might.
Felix
He might be
don't
right.
do-
He might be right in the sense that.
You know, Yao Felix.
Guess what?
He doesn't play.
Guess
Rafael
what?
Leao
Guess
plays.
what? Guess what?
Bro, Phil Foden.
All
Foden
this
won't be a left
talk,
winger.
all this talk about
Who's
Phil
on-
Foden,
who plays
all
on
this
the right?
talk
They play
about Phil
Otavio
Foden,
sometimes
get
on the
what?
right, or-
all this talk about Phil Foden is because Phil Foden plays in a functional system.
No, he's a generational talent.
No, hold
Forget-
on.
Forget.
With world-class play. Do you think that
quality
if Saka was playing for Man City, Phil Foden's numbers would be better than him?
Never.
No chance.
There's no chance now. There's no chance.
Do you think if you take Phil Foden and put
But
him in
they-
the
but they
Arsenal...
play
No,
different-
no, hold
they
on,
play
hold on,
different
hold
rules.
No, no,
on.
let's see.
Do
Guys,
you think
I
if
don't
you
think-
take Phil
I
Foden
don't
and
think
put in
Saka
the
is
Arsenal
better
team...
Now,
hold on
okay,
now,
okay.
no vex. If you take Phil Foden and put in the Arsenal team that had Lacazette and Aubameyang, that Phil Foden can take Arsenal on his shoulders for 3 years.
Can I just-
You think he can do that?
Going to
So a
be-
point.
I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I like Phil
Do you know why I
Foden.
disagree with you? Do you know why I disagree with you? Because now this guy is someone who has been playing under a manager whose level is so high that if you don't try and get close to it, there's no way you get into that team. Now let me
But
tell you, there's a reason.
also, do you also
There's a reason
agree-
Foden
do you
is
also
called
agree-
generational talent.
No, do you
Okay.
also agree? Who they call him generational talent? Now they call him that
Anyway,
one. Do you also agree?
Ini, just let Emeka.
No, Emeka, no vex. Do you also agree that Phil Foden playing under a manager like Pep has benefited from Pep's brain many times?
Well, that's football.
Many times I've seen Pep literally play the game in Phil Foden's
But you
head
can ask-
on the pitch.
but you can't look at
He will
football
tell
that
him,
way.
stay there, stay there. Pep
You
plays
can't
like
look-
that.
you can't look at football
Do you
that way.
think Saka plays for Man City?
You
He
can't
will
look at
not do the
that.
same.
No, but I ask you. Okay, we've gone really off point now. But like,
Yeah.
Odegaard and Bruno Fernandes, right? Who would you say is the better player?
Better
What the guy
player.
Bruno Fernandes?
Yeah, no,
better footballer.
Yeah.
No, no,
Odegaard.
no.
So if you put Odegaard in the Man U team that Bruno has carried for those years, do you think Odegaard will get those numbers?
No.
So then how is it better by your logic?
No.
So like football is different. So people are in different systems.
It's not mathematics,
So, like,
basically.
so Odegaard in that Arsenal system is perfect because he links the game perfectly. His hold up play, his passing, one-touch passing, his tempo controlling. But if you put him in that United team that Bruno carried, scoring 18, 20 goals, Odegaard can't do that. So like Saka, you say Saka is perfect for that Arsenal system in transition and the way he plays. But he can't finish. For this finishing, passing, dribbling is on another level to Saka. Saka is faster. Saka is stronger. Saka is also very good one-on-one. Let's
not make it the Foden show, right? Let's not make it the Foden show. Premier League is just a couple of weeks away. We'll get back to that, right? But no, what were we saying? We're talking about Senegal and their chances. So you think Senegal are going to qualify for sure, right?
I think so.
Omega, what does it think?
I think I know England don't play the best football, but like we've seen from the last two tournaments, they know how to get these things done now. So semi-finals in Europe, in the World Cup, finals in Euros, I think it'll be a tough game. It could go to extra time because Senegal are a very tough team, but I think they'll squeak through. I think England will go.
I think Senegal, they don't have the depth when it comes to when results are not coming during the game, and that's what Gareth Southgate have got, in abundance. I think when it comes to the game becoming really tough, Southgate can look to his bench and bring in someone who is going to change it. So you might want to say Senegal they've done well in their last couple of games, but the truth is that in terms of quality, in terms of the mental, the mental strength that will come into that game, had it been they have Sadio Mane who will lead the lines for them, I would have said it would be.
Do you know why England couldn't beat the US?
Why?
They have personal records.
Do you know why they couldn't beat the US? No. Forget past record.
Yeah.
On match day, US worked harder than them. Saka couldn't beat the left back Anthony Robinson.
So you don't think it's an
The fullback said,
I think
the
Senegal,
midfield Tyler Adams
are they as good as USA?
They will outwork you. And that's what I think Senegal would do. I think Senegal will outwork England.
I don't think
England work as hard as most teams in the tournament.
Now, this is where you always get it wrong. African teams, as much as we want to praise African teams, are you listening first?
Okay.
As much as we want to praise African teams, I think what we lack a lot is concentration. That's what we lack.
I agree.
True.
If it was a United States of America, that game, from the first minute, they had same concentration till the final whistle. The game between Senegal and Netherlands, it would have gone, it would have ended 0-0 if it was another team. Guy, they lost connection when it's 80 minutes. So that's what I'm saying, that when
they plan for them to lose concentration.
I think it's a good.
It's very easy.
It's a good point. No, I agree.
I think we easily do it.
So look, I totally agree with. I think Ghana were a typical example, and Cameroon. How do you? But hopefully lessons are learned, right? But for sure, it's not about England are going to go and beat Senegal.
No.
I think that.
I think the underrating England a bit, because even though, let's say they have a really tough 70, 80 minutes, like Abigail said, okay, they've Koulibaly and the rest, they've tried. Then you now bring in like Saka, Grealish.
Yeah, you get.
I think like that
job
is very,
it's mad.
and that's a different wave of pressure, different
it's mad.
concentration.
It's crazy.
So it'll be tough, but like I think England just have
I can't put my money on Senegal. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
So the next, I'm not sure. Does this video come out before tomorrow? Does anybody think that Ghana qualify? I think that if they could discipline themselves, they can beat Uruguay.
I think Suarez has played into their heads. That interview, I think Suarez,
I haven't seen it, so
South Americans, they are very smart. They know when to get into your head, and that's what I said about concentration. Now Ghanaians are coming into that game. I hope it's the fans that are thinking that way, because they are coming into revenge, to remind Suarez of 2010, what he did. But they've forgotten that. I told the Ghanaian that Suarez is not the problem. They gave him, he was given a red card, and a penalty was awarded. So I think there's no revenge here. That's the truth. There's no revenge.
No, so this is my take on revenge and whatnot, right? It can be a double-edged sword, as with many things, right? You can go into the game thinking, we have a personal score to settle here. However, I have found that if you play the occasion, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, true.
Right? You can use the revenge as motivation to run harder, to work harder, because you're thinking about, at the end, we'll have to come out tops in this thing. But if you allow it drive you in not making the right decisions, you know, you pulling out of 50-50, you know, you say 50-50 that you shouldn't go into, don't go into it, you know, that kind of thing. So it can work in both ways. Right? I wouldn't make it such a big problem. I wouldn't say, if Ghana lose, it's because they went into the game thinking about revenge, right?
They're not losing that game.
But my biggest problem with Ghana, sorry, I'll let you go in a bit, is if South Korea, you know, who are not the tallest people in the world, right? With all due respect to them, score those 2 headers.
Yeah, it's a big worry.
And you're up against Cavani and Nunes. You know, the defending was diabolical. I never seen anything like this before.
It is.
You know, we're leading the game 2-0. I was working that day. You know, I was enjoying. I was like, you know, African teams are doing a great time.
I'm sorry, the concentration.
Jesus Christ, terrible.
Even at Southampton, you know, that's
always
he just.
It's one of those guys. He can have.
They said Salisu will have 10 over 10,
honestly,
and in split seconds.
Perfect 85 minutes, and then he just loses it. So
It's crazy.
And those Uruguayans, sorry, bro. They're very, very clever. You know, these South Americans, Uruguayans, Argentinians especially.
Yeah.
Those guys know the smallest thing. They know Salisu, the smallest touch, and
That's
and they're going down.
Yeah.
So they need to be very.
And African players are very.
Ghana in a great position because let's hope that Korea doesn't get it 3 points against Portugal.
Yeah.
They just need to avoid defeat and they're through. But this.
So that's the permutation. Ghana needs to avoid defeat.
Yes. And
hope
hope that
Korea doesn't win.
Doesn't beat Portugal. No, Korea don't beat Portugal.
So
no, it's possible because now
Yeah,
that was the
Portugal
same.
rested their team,
I don't think Portugal will
No,
rest their team.
but they have depth.
I think Ronaldo wants to score.
I think Ronaldo wants to score.
I think Ronaldo will want to play.
I think the person that might be benched
Ronaldo-
is Bruno.
Ronaldo
Because
wants to
Bruno
play.
looks to be.
Messi has scored 2 goals already.
No, Bruno looks to be the important, you know.
He's been brilliant.
Yeah, the important guy. So I think they want to rest him.
And
don't forget, Ronaldo is 38 or 37. I want to give him a rest as well.
Yeah.
Omo is very dicey.
But on that
Ghana should go through. But
that final match day. Look, Tunisia beat France. You know, so what is possible is possible, right?
Yeah.
But I have to say that it ends with Brazil. No, with Cameroon. Is there any chance that happens?
No way.
No, like my very good legend said. All respect to
all power is to God.
Samuel Eto'o Field. I'm sorry, bro. I don't know. Whoever gave you that dream of Cameroon winning the World Cup,
Go and collect
the sad thing that
I think
they need to beat Cameroon.
you know my problem with I don't have a problem.
See, bro. They cannot beat Brazil's second team.
So
Yeah,
IBK, God bless you. God bless you for going to this point, right? Anything is possible in football, right?
Cameroon can win.
Cameroon needs to go there. Cameroon needs to go there. Work very hard. Do all the things right. But I have to say this, given that we've given so much props to African teams and how far they can go in the future. I have to say that African football FAs, and I think I've said it before, and the presidents need to understand that there is banter and there is putting the team under pressure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's has been there for what? A year? Barely? I've seen more quotes from him than anybody in the entire Cameroonian Federation. You know, he says the most mundane things. Oh, we're going to win this. And you know, if you're speaking to me, I can tell if you're joking. But I can't tell if he's joking. Or I can't tell if he's actually really serious. Then you now add the problems they've had with Onana, you know, who has since left the training camp. Yeah. So all of that is just quite ridiculous. But I think that there is a chance to go for broke here. You go gung ho in the game.
Of course.
I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
You have nothing to lose anymore.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose. You've got to go for it. Start promoting and start Vincent Aboubakar. Just go for it. Absolutely go for it. Brazil will make changes. That is guaranteed.
For sure.
So you think that that's a chance for you to really go into it, but they really made the mistakes early in the tournament. You know, that game they've lost against Switzerland should have been a couple of goals up in the first half before Switzerland. One of the players said, we played well in the first half, they played well in the second half. The sad thing is that they scored when they played well, we didn't score.
Yeah.
And against Serbia, another mistake again. You know, leading at halftime, on the stroke of halftime, you concede 2 goals in a flash. And it's the problem with concentration with African teams, which is
It's crazy.
They're very, very dangerous. But against Brazil, just go out there and give it everything.
So let's do potential quarterfinal clashes. So we know Netherlands with the USA for sure. Netherlands are going to qualify there, no? I saw a
Round of
stat.
16, you mean?
Round of 16, yeah. Faster than my shadow. But I saw a stat that Louis van Gaal has never lost a World Cup game.
18 games, yeah.
18, drawn 1, which of course went to penalties, and of course they lost that game. But, you know, look, I watched them play, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure there are many coaches that can out-tactic Louis van Gaal on a game day. I'm not sure there are many coaches. And what I've seen from the Netherlands is, you know, they're not exciting, whatnot, but they found their routes to goal. You know, they know, oh, this is how, if we do this, we can get a shot goal from this. The goals that Cody Gakpo has scored, it's almost as if they don't understand that he's a centre forward, and he goes out and comes in, you know, in between the games. So it's second player to score, you know, opening goal for his team 3 times. So it's incredible. So what they're doing there clearly shows that there's something they know about him.
I think that's a great point, and I think Holland, the Netherlands, Spain especially, and you can see that these teams they're teams that have been in transition, not the best group of players right now with Netherlands. Obviously there's Van Dijk, but like you see a lot of young players, you see like Gakpo, then you have the rest like Bergwijn, Berghuis, like a lot of like kind of averages to like decent players. But you can see when a team is very well coached, everyone knows exactly where they're meant to be, and they play the same system. And you can see Van Gaal even when he coached United as a United fan, like everything is like almost robotic. The same pattern.
Rehearsed.
And so you can see the coaching, and with Spain as well, it's not their best generation, but again you can see the coaching in the pattern of play that they have. So I think Netherlands are a tricky customer because you might underestimate them, but they defend well, they make a goal, and
that's it. That's a great point, right? Is there before we've got maybe about 24 to wrap up, but is there? I was speaking about Cody Gakpo, and I've seen, you know, the United, you know, rail and bot accounts, you know, rolling out all the interesting or personal terms, you know, being spoken about and all that stuff. Talk to me about the World Cup transfer market pool and how fruitful that is.
It's dangerous. Yeah, it's very dangerous. You can get the perfect signing, a budget signing. You can get the perfect signing, but you can also get a dud.
James Rodriguez, anyone?
Yeah, James Rodriguez, United. We signed Rojo based on that. We signed Jamba based on that. So it's very dangerous, but at the same time, you can get like that player that you never expected. I think Dumfries. I don't know if it was maybe Euros. I think Dumfries had very good Euros, and then he got signed. So it's a dangerous one. I think Gakpo at least he's shown that slightly before that he's been on form. You can see him growing as a player with PSV. I think he's scored about 17. Exactly. Yeah, but like he has the physicality. He's 6'3", fast and strong. So I think he'll be a decent signing, but I think teams should be wary about that World Cup.
That World Cup market,
That World Cup hype, because their price will like triple based on like because you scored against like Qatar, for instance.
I was talking earlier about Sofiane Amrabat. I mean, his agent, club rang him and said, please, can we make an extension?
Yeah, I think because in Fiorentina, he was just like, he's doing okay.
Yeah.
But
he's had 2 monstrous games in midfield against De Bruyne and Luka Modric. I mean, when you play in that midfield and you work so hard and not allow those 2 great technicians really have their way in the game, you must be having something.
I think Kudus.
That Senegal team. Sorry, bro. That Senegal team that in 2002. How many of those signings worked? Diallo worked. Diouf didn't work. Diouf was the guy. I remember I was in school. That was the guy with his blonde hair.
Was scary.
He went to Liverpool and it didn't work. You know.
He went to Liverpool and they were playing out of position.
No, that Liverpool story is. I don't think it's based on
playing him out of position.
Attitude. So you just see like a sample size.
And he had issues with Gerrard too at that point.
You see a sample size.
When you have problems with Gerrard, you don't want to.
He has had issues everywhere else he went to. He had issues everywhere else. So like you see a sample size of 3 games. This guy is incredible. But you don't do it.
Henri Camara, remember Henri Camara? Yeah. He wasn't such a big star, but he was one player. Mourinho was once quoted that every time my team faced him, he was someone that was really scary to play against. Henri Camara was a good player. They had such an incredible squad. I don't think an African team, maybe Nigeria's team of '94. Yeah. I don't think an African team have had a team that good. Yeah. Like the Senegal had in 2002. Yeah. It was such an incredible squad because they had this group of giants.
I think they won the Confederation Cup, right?
Was Senegal?
Did they win it?
No, I'm not
Ghana
That one they
2010.
played against
Yeah,
France.
Ghana
Did they
still
win it?
Ooh.
Who's that?
Was okay,
Copa
okay,
Cup.
okay, no, it was Cameroon. It was
No,
Cameroon.
Cameroon.
That was Cameroun.
So, because I remember Papu
Cameroon.
Job, God rest his soul, Salim Jao in midfield, Kalilu Fadiga, 6-footers. As in, they will stand in midfield like, you know, you stood no
After
chance.
the tournament, I think that's what, like after the tournament, maybe they peaked right at the right time for that tournament.
Yeah.
But
And
after
that was it.
Yeah.
that was pretty much it.
So I was going to speak. I mean, you touched on Kevin De Bruyne and Luka Modric and all these players. But if you think about the World Cup, which in my opinion I've spoken to you guys a lot about this, is I think it's the most cutthroat tournament in the world because it's the only tournament where you hear managers from the very beginning start speaking about winning it. Right? The Champions League, Mourinho, for example, tells you can't start thinking about the winning tournament until you get to the semi-finals, right? But for the World Cup, it's 7 games. So first 2 games, you can tell if you're going home or not, right? Yeah. So the mentality that has got to be in the dressing room is that to win it, we must peak almost immediately. So that makes me wonder, if it is the most cutthroat tournament in the world, then the players who are able to channel their best performances into those 7 games, if you go to the final, must be the best players in their positions. I see Casemiro in the last 2 games, and I was speaking to a Real Madrid fan on Saturday, shouts to Ed, and I said, look, is there any midfielder in the world better than Casemiro at this point in time? Both at defensive work, and it's funny at Real Madrid. It's funny at Real Madrid, right? What we saw him do a lot was destroy, right? Which kind of overshadowed other parts of his game. Before the World Cup at United, I saw him do 60 yards, easily. At the World Cup, I saw him do it almost like he's responsible to switch play, make things happen for the entire team.
Yeah, controversial, but I think that Fabinho is a better defensive midfielder than him. He is great technically on the ball, and his positional sense is good. What Fabinho doesn't do, and that's why Casemiro plays ahead of him, is the fact that Fabinho gets the ball and releases it. Casemiro gets the ball and builds off play. He's someone, like you said, he can ping a pass, he can shoot really well, and he's a bit.
I actually think Fabinho shoots better than him.
I think Casemiro shoots better than him.
So Fabinho, they both have they're both underrated.
I think it's the aggressiveness. I think that's the difference.
Casemiro gets more goals.
Casemiro gets more goals, and I think technically, with the ball at his feet, I think Casemiro wants the ball more than Fabinho wants the ball.
I don't think at the moment there's any midfielder in the world.
I think Casemiro, he's also surprised me as well. But to play in that midfield, arguably the best midfield of all time, Madrid midfield, and not be a weak link. So I think it's just something that, again, about perception, like we mentioned at the start of the episode. Maybe we didn't notice it as much, plus he didn't have to do as much having those 2 geniuses, Kroos and Modric, ahead of him. But he showed me a different side of his game, and he's all all-rounded midfielders that can do everything. And his passing, he can shoot, he can defend. His defending is elite. He has to be top.
I don't know. I don't know any midfielder now that can do everything Casemiro can do. Right, and easily top 3 easily at the moment for me the best in that position. I think God bless you because you're in my thought process. And this is why I keep saying that people need to, when we remember what Kante did for those 4 years, at the top. No player could outplay Kante in the same game if he wasn't injured. I don't care who you are, Modric, Kevin De Bruyne, I don't care who you are. You couldn't outplay Kante in midfield. And I think we're getting maybe a bit of a throwback to we were reverting to type, the kind of midfielders that some of us grew up watching, who could do everything. So these days you have, the Bernardo Silvas who are good in those, tiny pockets of the area of the pitch, which of course I've got to say that he works very hard as well. But I think we're slowly retransitioning to those players. Look at Jude Bellingham, for example.
I did a talk on this earlier. It's changed again. So obviously there's still the Spanish, they're going to be the Spanish. But you said Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice's, Casemiro's, even Fred, Barella, Tonali, all these guys now, you can't just be, okay, I'm just here to dictate the game, pass and pass.
Exactly.
You have,
it's
football is so intense now that most players now, you have to be that kind of player that you have to be able to do everything. And you have to have that intensity and stamina. But then the exceptions, like the Pedris, the Gavis, who have a particular set of players around them and style that their club plays. So those guys are still important. But now.
Yeah.
Gavi is feisty.
Exactly, he's feisty as well. So even like all these guys, like KDB was a pretty boy 10, all these things before, but he had to change his game. But now the Silva is like that, but like he's very intense as well in the way he plays. So you can't just be like all like the Thiagos, Alcantaras. You can see that he plays down. Ozil's
left the WhatsApp group.
Plays down. Odegaard had to transform his game. Odegaard too was a silky technical, but now you can see the aggression and intensity in his game as well. So I think the game is going back to the throwback, the Lampards, the Gerrards, those guys where it was all action.
It's funny you mentioned Fred. You know, I was at a bar last weekend and speaking to a couple of friends, and someone said, I've never seen a player in the world, raise his hands more times than Fred. He's always like, oh, sorry. No vex. No vex. It's always, no vex.
How does Fred?
But have you noticed that he's always in the air?
I like to interview Tite. I like to talk to him. I like to hear his thought process. How does he play?
No.
How does he play Fred ahead of Bruno Guimaraes?
That wasn't to disrespect Fred.
It's the same way. It's the same way.
It's not disrespectful.
No, let me talk. It's the same way Fred. No matter the manager you bring into Man United, Fred always find a way to play.
Yeah, but they don't get another person now.
No.
They don't get another person.
Let me see. They have. I tell you that there's something coaches see in Fred. And I think it's based on his work rate.
Yeah.
Coaches appreciate work rate a lot.
And
I remember one of these work games. One of these World Cup games, England, I think England, it was against USA or what team. This guy brought in Jordan Henderson. And I was like, you have better players on the bench. But
who are the better players? Who are the better players than Henderson?
What, midfield?
Madison is injured.
Madison is injured.
There's Grealish,
Grealish cannot play.
Bellingham was lost in that game. Bellingham was lost in that game.
That's the downside.
He was lost in that game. Declan Rice was nowhere to be found. The American midfield swarmed on them in that midfield and they couldn't get a hold.
And by the way,
the minute they brought Henderson into the pitch, you could see his experience. His
So
understanding of using
by the way,
the ball.
Weston McKennie is not a bad player.
Yeah, and he's
the issue I have
up and down.
The issue I have with him is that he's not improving from what
What do you want
when he was brought into like
what do you want him to improve to? Because this is the nonsense they were talking about Declan Rice.
But the issue with like
Declan Rice is doing well in midfield. He's winning balls. He's playing well. They say he's got to add goals to his game. I said absolute rubbish. Add goals to what? He's got to add goals to his game.
That's how Van Dijk got to the problem that he's in now. You get. Van Dijk was a fantastic defender, doing his thing. All of a sudden, somebody burned the midnight oil and compiled the amount of time he hasn't been dribble passes. So, I think that record needs to stay like that. I'm not going to go to start shadow marking. You get. And for me, right, bad habits, don't die easy. And I saw Van Dijk at the time he came to Liverpool, wasn't afraid going something, come out. But after they built him up to be Rolls Royce and all that stuff, then he's all of a sudden he's worried about how he looks when he goes into you please go and do that thing. Yeah. It's fine. Anyway,
my guy don't cast.
There is that.
Rolls Royce don't turn to golf.
Are there any potential other matchups that we've missed out? I hear that
Argentina,
Australia.
No, that's a walk in the park. It's a walk in the park.
How Australia meet after that group?
I do not know.
I think the main banana skin. I think we touched.
Bro, they have
Senegal, England.
Yeah,
I think Senegal, England is the main banana.
That's the one we know for sure.
I think so.
Yeah, but I mean,
Brazil, if Ghana or Uruguay.
I hear that.
So because Uruguay and Brazil is going to be two South American giants. Could be a tricky one. And
Brazil, they always beat those people.
Brazil beat those people. I heard Brazil.
If you give Brazil all the South American opponents at this World Cup on their route to the final,
they will be happy with that.
They will say, please go and write our name on the World Cup. The World Cup is ours. They actually want the Argentina. Are you kidding me?
No.
Brazil will beat Argentina.
Is it a good thing that Neymar is injured? Because I saw the first game and I've always said that the best players have a special understanding of when to turn their talents. So I drive on this Lekki Road all the time. And this is why I need to buy a Mercedes, right? So, if my destiny helper, locate me now.
No, go locate down.
Locate me now. If I locate you, right? And I say that. I always say that if you if you drive like a GL or something like that, the beauty of driving those cars is to get you out of trouble in tight scenarios. So in a place where you need to downshift. So how to tie this back to the player? The best players with the best technical ability, like Neymar, I don't know any player that can do what Neymar can do with the ball currently playing, you know. But the best players know that, you see this full repertoire of skills I have, I don't need to do it every time I hold the ball. I need to pick the moments to execute something. But the first game I saw him play for Brazil, you know, and he was playing almost slightly at the top of midfield, right? Just linking, taking the ball from Casemiro and Co. In this World Cup, right?
Yeah, first game against Serbia.
So I saw him hold the ball. That sometimes the ball needs to just move from Casemiro into the final third, and he needs to make you drop a shoulder before that time. He allows the opposition that extra second.
It's a great point, because I think he's being played out of position. Because he's being played at a 10. Neymar has always been a winger.
But would you rather bench Vinicius and play him?
So that's the issue. So what you want him to do is something that I don't think he's capable of, which is why I don't think that's his best position. Because Neymar likes to touch the ball. To play as a 10, you need to release the ball quickly. So if you hold the ball too much, because as a winger you want to face up and do your skills. But as a 10,
it's not say out of pace or two.
I know, he has for sure. But like this is where he has to play in this tournament, because Vinicius right now is like he's electric.
Nobody in the world.
Always been like that for a while now.
But at the 10, like I think Neymar obviously has the ability, he has the technical ability and the passing ability to play that position. But I do feel he needs to learn how to release the ball quicker in that position. Because you lose certain attacks, and when you try and do this play here, lose this play here, and there's a defender right behind you, you're not in the wing where you can turn around. Someone always coming at you.
But you know what? Yubi makes a good point, because I feel like the most important player. I never thought I would say this, but because I know I said something funny before the World Cup. I never thought I would say this, but after that Serbia game, I realized that Neymar is the most important player in that Brazil team when they play against really tough opponents, because he's a guy who, if you see the amount of space Vinicius finds himself and the other guy Rafinha. Every time Neymar gets on the ball, so he drags people to himself. He almost like invites players to come and have a nibble. So every time he gets on the ball, he deliberately, that's the point you make when you say Neymar holds onto the ball. Sometimes it can be annoying. But Neymar, I think he does that deliberately. So he takes on the ball, he tries something fancy. The next thing, he can make a touch and the ball goes wide, and Vinicius is in acres of space, or Rafinha is in acres of space. So I think it's deliberate the way he's hanging onto the ball, because he's trying to create room. I think Brazil look like, with the way Casemiro is playing in that central midfield role, the way Neymar is drawing put people to himself, I just feel like Brazil look really, really set. They don't want to be expansive. They don't want to beat people 4-0. But we're going to get the goals when it is necessary, and when it is time, we'll pick the moments and get things done.
Yeah, I was. So, I mean, if you're watching or you're listening, hopefully you could interact as well. Is it a better thing that Brazil don't play with Neymar at the moment, or do you think Brazil's national team are better with Neymar in the team in this tournament? Right. I was just going to wrap up. We're almost done. And Vinicius Junior, Kylian Mbappe, both players having good tournaments. Vinicius hasn't scored yet, right? But I was watching the game, and I think I saw a stat as well that Mbappe has been involved in more goal actions at the World Cup than any player, which brings me to my point. It's a point I made a couple months ago that those two players will be in the running for the Ballon d'Or at some point in time in their lives, and I think that it's their time. I get the sense that Vinicius will win it before Kylian Mbappe, right? So this is the World Cup year, and you get the feeling that whatever happens with the Ballon d'Or awards next year will be heavily dependent on what happens at the World Cup this year. If Brazil go on to win the World Cup, you've got to say who's going to be the best player in the team. Because with all the PR Vinicius has started building, having a brilliant season for Real Madrid already. Who wins the Ballon d'Or first, both of them, Kylian or Vinicius?
I'll still go Mbappe. For me, Mbappe is just a killer. He's just a killer. I think.
Is he the more popular guy?
Again, these things are about narrative, and there's always like.
It's funny because I think Vinicius is getting narrative as well now.
But it's almost like a hierarchy, like who's up next, and you're always like, okay, after Ronaldo and Messi, then like Mbappe is next. And I think
but the same thing was for Neymar at the point.
So it's about picking at the right time. So if Mbappe now, let's say, also wins the World Cup, or of course it depends on who wins the World Cup or who wins the Champions League. So we can't really say now. But in terms of ability and in terms of trajectory, I'll still go Mbappe just because I think he's just a bit more of a killer than Vinicius. Vinicius is going to do everything. You get you maybe 15 goals, 20 assists. Well, Mbappe will get you like 45 goals.
Yeah.
And like again, I think the narrative still would favor Mbappe. And I think even having in this tournament already, Mbappe has 3 goals, and Mbappe is just he's just always there. He just seems like he has that Ronaldo like kind of mentality to me. Vinicius still seems like he's a fantastic player, but he's enjoying himself. But Mbappe, he's going.
I don't feel like he's locked in.
Exactly. I can see like Mbappe he's going for the record now. He's going for it now. Vinicius is just like, I'm an amazing, incredible player, and I'm having the best time of my life. I score an offside goal. I'm doing celebration. Like Mbappe is just like, I'm scoring. And
Mbappe wants the goal.
He wants it.
I think
I have to say that is excellent.
It is
excellent analysis,
actually. It's
honestly.
a brilliant point, because every time you see Mbappe, and that's why he's getting angry at PSG. You know, he's scoring the goals, but he's not having that much effect. Because you look
That's what he starts. That's what happens now.
you know, he's scoring a lot of goals, scoring more goals than he was scoring last season. But every time the headlines are written, it was about how brilliant Neymar was, how fantastic Messi was in those tight spaces. So he doesn't like it. That's why he's angry. And that's why he enjoys playing for France, because he's on that left-hand side, and you know, he's getting those 1v1s with defenders, and he was dropping shoulders and, you know, getting on his bike. He loves it with France. That's why he enjoys it more. And I totally agree. I just feel like the fact that he will score goals, he would want to be in those positions.
It is great we have this conversation, because I just remembered that the kind of player, the kind of transformation in your game you need to play that number 10 role is the same thing. Griezmann is playing the same role for France this year.
Yeah.
Right? You see how Griezmann releases the ball quickly? Because there was a pass. Griezmann almost put Mbappe one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It was Christian said, like, bro, no, you're not going to do this. Hold his shell, brought him down immediately. So yeah, I was looking for that comparison.
Yeah.
But we're almost done, and that's it. Look, I totally enjoyed this chat. So who wins the World Cup then? That's the pertinent question to ask.
I still think Brazil. I think defensively they are really good. You know, people keep saying Thiago Silva, 37-year. Thiago Silva is not many people's 37-year-old. Thiago Silva, as a footballer, I think is not older than 30. You know, because of the way he carries himself. You know, and when you're at that age where you don't run that much again, you understand your limitations, and if he doesn't do this thing that your modern day defenders, your Maguires want to do, carry ball and stroll out of the defense.
Why you don't see my guy?
You don't see him do. Did you want to Ghana video?
Against Wales. Like, by the way, that guy's not going to the UK for a long time.
You know, he understands that I need to be in position. You don't beat Thiago Silva in 1v1s. I saw one tackle Jesus and Chelsea Arsenal, where Jesus, made his way into the 18. The awareness, the understanding of position, the guy is top class. And when you have Marquinhos with you, someone he's very comfortable playing with, played together at Paris Saint-Germain. And I just feel that without defensive stability, and with players like Casemiro, when you go to tournament for a manager, you dream that your top key players come to the front.
And locking in, yeah. And
when you go to tournament, that's what you pray for. And that's what Brazil have got. Because Casemiro is, first 2 games, you just look at him and like he's ready for the tournament.
Yeah, he's locked in.
He's ready. He wants to win it.
Yeah.
And that mindset is something that I just feel that Brazil are just head and shoulders.
Just feel like they're locked in, yeah. Any mentions for Spain? You think Spain has something up their sleeves? Or was it you who said Spain?
I don't want to go for Brazil because
don't go now.
It's a very easy one. It's a very easy one.
Probably Ghana, maybe.
Ghana never even come up from the group. I think Argentina will go all the way. I tweeted something when they lost against Saudi Arabia. They needed, there's what they call when they say they
Saudi Arabia play more past them.
When they say someone has to, when you need to be brought down to earth, you get, on the back of not losing 3 years, having a whole lot of confidence, and they just needed something that will make them understand that, we are actually in a competition where anything can happen, and losing your first game is the best time to lose a game in a World Cup. And ever since then, in fact, nobody thought that they were going to win against Mexico and Poland. They didn't even concede any goal again. So I think they have a very solid setup. They have a team that should be able to go all the way. It's not fluke that they had 3 years unbeaten run. I think they've got a very, very fantastic squad, and they should go all the way. The only team that can stop them is Brazil.
Yeah, I'm going with Ini's prediction. I think Brazil, for me, before the tournament, I tipped Brazil. I'm going to stick with them. I think the solidity, the technical ability, the depth. I think.
France?
Yeah, no, I think so. For me, I think the final, based on how I see the different brackets. I think it's going to be England and Brazil in the final, and I think Brazil. Because
you there one me.
Because wait, it's on tape, right? All right. So I think Brazil will win the final.
Right.
Yeah.
That's incredible, actually.
But my Brazil,
I'll say
that.
that.
Will not reach semi-final. No worry.
Right.
The competition comes to an end on Sunday.
Look, let us know who you think will win the World Cup. The guys have made some interesting points, and I have to say that everybody's counting out France. I still think that France have that Mbappe locked in thing. You mentioned Casemiro. I think Mbappe looks like a guy who is locked in. So gentlemen, I want to thank you very much indeed. Emeka,
This one is just for the producer.
Yeah.
I think Morocco can go all the way.
Right. Just to satisfy everybody, right? Emeka, you had to take out the very busy schedule to come. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Always. Yeah. IBK. We will jam on Friday.
No.
Thank God it's Friday.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
You may have seen the bright lights wherever you are in your neighborhood, from Victoria Island to Port Harcourt, from Uyo to Calabar, and of course from Anambra, of course, to maybe somewhere in the east. Take out the time to enjoy the Christmas with your family. December 1st is always a great time. And of course, it was MI who said if we jam for the bar, he'll buy the bar. Not me though. But it was Drake who said we're here for a short time and not a good time. So we've been shooting for 2 hours, and hopefully you enjoyed every bit of this. Follow on YouTube and of course on Instagram and Twitter as well. TikTok, don't forget as well. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Nice one.
My producer. Don't do what you want. Morocco to go all the way.
Brother,
Why Morocco go all the way, please?